starting to get everybody ready. Just waiting for a couple more things. While we wait, though, we're going to put up some polls. So right in front of you should see some fun polls to get us ready for today. We're so excited that we're going to get to spend some time with you. And to get us ready, got some fun questions, right? What'd you do? What's the strangest thing that you've done during one of these online meetings? All right, we're going to see who's going to be honest here. Got a couple of different options. All right, you're an early bird or you a night owl? There's a question number 2. Number 3 on there is like, why did you choose to attend? All right, there we go. Some honesty. My boss made me. I love the honesty. And then number 4, if your city was the breed of dog, what kind of breed would it be?
Bull. Sure. Adoption. Only adopt.
I'm pretty sure Jack Russell would be New Orleans. We are small, but very opinionated and tough. So it's good to see everybody. We got a big crew here. I think we're just waiting for a couple more people, so we'll get started here in another minute or two. Ms. Ahada, I'll wait till you give me the go-ahead. Oh, no, relaunch that poll. Hold on. Sorry, we'll get the poll back up. There we go. Oh, it cleared it. I don't know why it cleared it. It's okay. Let's try it one more time. Right? We'll just wait for everybody.
Answer the questions. I'm like, let me answer the questions. There's some real honesty right there.
It's some real honesty. So good to see everybody. Today's going to be an amazing day, a great conversation. Can't wait to kind of hear all the different people that we've got speaking with us today. Got some young people who are going to be a part of this. You guys are going to get to meet my close friend, Miss Collette. She's got no energy, little bit of personality. So you guys just prepare yourself. I like the other, but my lips are sealed. That seems to be, it's getting up there. It's creeping up there. A lot of ate breakfast. Okay. I brush teeth people. I'm starting to wonder where that's coming from. All right, I see my night owl people, though, 56%. There we go.
Where's the shower question? Like, I haven't had a shower sometimes for 3 days.
Let's be real. My lips are sealed. That's when the lips are sealed. All right, Pit Bull Terriers kind of winning this one. We talk about our
adoption,
city.
Pit Bulls, yes.
Scary, but kind, very deep down. All right, let's share some results. There we go. So you can check that out. So ate breakfast 1. That's the strangest thing that people did while attending. So it's pretty, low key. That's not too bad. Couple of cooked lunch or dinner. All right. Wore pajamas. That's fair. Figured that number might be a little higher. There's my night owl people, 57%. Stay up all night. I dig it. What's the reason that you guys attended? 71%. I want to learn new things, but I appreciate it. The 9% that said your boss made you be here. And then finally, what if your city were a breed of dog? What breed would it be? Pit Bull Terrier. Scary, but kind. Down.
The most under-known or misguided breed ever. Like
I totally agree.
People believe that pit bulls is like vicious and horrible. They're just strong. It doesn't mean that they're not loving. Because we're strong and physically fit doesn't mean I'll rip your head off. I mean, I will if I have to. But I'm just saying.
You see, I warned you guys. A little bit of energy, a little bit of personality going to come from this one today, but it's all going to be good. All right, are we getting close to wanting to get started here? So I'm so glad that you guys are here today with us for what an important conversation. You're going to hear some really amazing people today. My name is Nate Lejeune. You're going to see me pop in and out. I'm part of the training team here at Up2Us Sports. And so I'm the fun guy. I get to pop in and do polls and help us transition. But let us get started today. I'm going to toss it over to my friend, Ahada McCummings. She is our Director of Strategic, easy for me to say, strategic partnerships here at Up2Us Sports.
Thank you, Nate. I appreciate it. And listen, thank you, everybody, for taking some time out on your Monday morning or afternoon, depending on where you are. to join us today about a conversation that we're going to have today about what do we do now. We've been hearing a lot about the effects of racial injustice and the pandemic and all of these things that are happening in our society, and what are the effects on the youth that we serve. And today is really a conversation about what do we do moving forward. We've had those conversations. Now it's time to act. And so in our first segment, we are joined by Woodley Edouard, who is the coach at Bronx Lacrosse in New York, as well as his athletes, Ethan Garcia, who is 13 years old and plays the attack position for Bronx Lacrosse, and Liz Marie Rojas, who is 14 years old and plays goalie for Bronx Lacrosse. We also have Jeff Harris, who's a coach at 4 Point Play in Chicago. And we have Tayquan Faulkner, who's a coach at Curtis High School in New York City, as well as his athlete, Eric Dukes, who's a 17-year-old defensive end for Curtis High School football team. So welcome. I want to jump right in and let's really get down to business about what's been happening with youth, what's to come for our youth. So let's start with Ethan. Ethan, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Ethan, can you talk a little bit about how's it been? I mean, it's been a while since youth sports has been able to actually participate in playing. So how's it been for you? Are you missing your friends? Are you missing the competition? What's been going on with you?
Everything's been good in quarantine, lockdown, trying to go outside the most as possible, but like being aware of the virus. I'm missing everything, really. I'm missing school. I'm missing my friends. I'm missing the competition, of course. But yeah, I know that everything's gonna be all right. And everything is gonna like it's gonna be good from right now and forward on. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. And Liz Marie, can you talk a little bit about how your coach has helped you during this time? Have you reached out to your coach? Have you utilized your coach?
So my coaches have been helping me by each week they would give these $100 gift cards. So people in the teammates in lacrosse, they could actually buy food, which is very helpful because some people right now, since they're not working, then they don't really have a way to get money and buy food for their family. So that's one way that Bronx Lacrosse has been helping us and other people on the team.
Wow. That's interesting and so helpful. So let's talk to Woodley a little bit. Woodley, how have you used this time to connect with your athletes and have conversations? And what are those conversations that you're having with them? Not just about the pandemic and the state that we're in, but about, just the racial injustice that's happened. It has been happening and we've been seeing in our communities, but it's getting a little bit more exposure. What's the conversations been like for you with your athletes?
Okay, there we go. Well, I'd like to say just overall, I feel like our organization in Bronx Lacrosse has done a really, really good job at keeping the kids engaged and creating programming and different activities to keep them engaged and to keep them, together as a team and to keep us close and keep us communicating. So what we've been doing is while school was shut down, we continue doing small workouts and things like that. We set up tutoring for the kids so they can get tutoring each week to help them with their homework and stuff like that, so they wouldn't fall behind. Because one thing I found out is a lot of kids go to sleep late and a lot of kids don't have that time management down yet. So the tutors have been a good job. The tutors have helped kind of keep them organized and keep them on their grades and things like that. Along with team workouts that we used to have, we also had individual meetings. So in the individual meetings, basically, I would just check up on, all my players in the team and everything, see how their family's doing, see how they're doing personally, and just allow them to be able to be comfortable and to say whatever it is that they want to say. If they have anything going on at home, as far as, the pandemic and things like that, I try to create a safe space for them to come and communicate and to say anything they have going on. You know what I'm saying? Because we have stuff going on as well. You know what I'm saying? Us as coaches us as coaches and people, we have things going on as well. So I try to just be as open and as honest as possible. Try to be really, really positive, because there's a lot of negative just things going on like 24/7. So I feel like at least if we can find one positive things to kind of like focus on, that's super important. And I feel like all the programming in our individual meetings and our team meetings that we've done ever since this is kind of going on has done a great job at one, kind of keeping the kids, I feel like, relaxed, and just keeping the team together, keeping that family atmosphere with our team and everything. And I thought we've done a really good job so far. All the coaches we have at Bronx Lacrosse, our founder, Dan Leventhal, has done a wonderful job. Liz Mary told you about the gift cards we've been getting out to them every other week. So we're trying to do everything we can just to keep that family together, because a lot of kids, sports is their outlet for everything. You know what I'm saying? Because they have a lot of just so much things going on at home. So we try to just continue to make this a safe space. And yeah.
Good. I think you highlight the importance of the role that coaches play in our youth in their lives. And so it's good to hear that, especially the organizations that we're partnered with are working really hard to continue to do that. Yeah. Eric, let me get you in on this conversation. So you're a little bit older. You're 17. You're in high school. Are you a senior this year, Eric? Is Eric here with me? Are you unmuted, Eric? Can't hear you. Okay, that's okay. Let's go to Tayquan. Tayquan, maybe you can answer this for me. You're working with high school athletes who are a little bit older, are a little bit more aware than younger kids are about what's going on in the country. What are those conversations like that you're having with them? Are you hearing them ask, what can we do? What do we do as youth to make a change in our communities?
For us, we've always, all right, so I'll start off by saying, like, I have the opportunity to coach where, I actually grew up at and was able to play for, the organization of Curtis High School football. And one thing that I've noticed since, young, we've always had, different background, different kids of, each background on the team. And since coaching and, even through the players, the coaches will always preach, like, we're family, we're brothers, these are the guys that you're going to go, basically to war with every weekend and, get used to seeing their faces. Because when you come in as a freshman, these are your guys, for the 4 years, and you'll be with these guys. So you'll see new faces, different, ethnicities and stuff like that. And one thing we love to do over there is embrace. We embrace each other, everything. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, if people say, like, you want to do it for the culture, these kids and, the different ethnicities, that is the culture. That is, that's who they are, and that's what makes them them. So when, we have these conversations with the kids, like you said, their first thing is, okay, well, I have a teammate that's this, and I don't see him like that. I see him as my equal. So we really try to force and stress equality, unity, and just build on and, double back into my man Woodley over there, is creating a safe space, because I think that's very important too. So for the culture, creating that safe space and, having these conversations, they're always willing to, put their hand in the pot as far as asking, what can I do? How can I help? Because they are young and people really don't, you know, as adults, don't really want to hear what the youth has to say. But at the end of the day, the youth is the future. And there was a point in time where we were the youth and we wanted somebody to have faith and believe in our dreams, you know, as well like that. So it starts with us as well. So I honestly feel that we play a major part in helping them succeed to make their voices, you know, heard and give them that push that they need for them to help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So there have been, you know, a few years ago when Colin Kaepernick first took a knee, there was sort of this outcry across the nation about whether high school, middle school teams, youth teams, whether it was respectful or not for them to take a knee during the national anthem. And you had athletic programs that would say, absolutely not, we're not doing that. Or you would have athletic programs that would say, yes, we support it, you get to do whatever you want to do. Now we're in a little bit of a different time in terms of getting some energy around this issue of racial injustice. I think I'm going to turn this over to you, Tayquan. Does that change now? Does that change? Are athletic programs and coaches going to be a little bit more open about how they allow or how they facilitate their athletes being able to express themselves around issues of social justice?
From my point of view, and you know, me knowing my coaches, I'll say yes, we listen to the kids, you know, and like I said before, they're the future. Without them, how is this supposed to, you know, go full circle and run how we need it to run? There's no football without them. So it's like, what if, you know, we didn't listen and, you know, a bunch of players just felt the need to not play anymore? I don't want to play for this coach. I don't feel like, you know, it's a safe space for me or a safe environment for me to play for this coach. So I would say, yeah, just listen. People just want to be heard. And there's a difference between I want to say there's a difference between taking a knee and knowing the analogy behind it and the history behind, you know, the flag and the national. It's a difference between taking a knee because of that reason and taking a knee because you're seeing other people do it. So know your history, know everything behind a purpose that you know that you're fighting for, have the legit facts. And then, you know, if I get the reaction like, oh, okay, then I have to believe. I have to believe it because you're showing me, you're teaching me now. Now I'm being coached, you know, so I think it goes full circle. So absolutely, I do think change could, you know, if I think the athletes can make a change, the young athletes. Just has to be in if you ask me, a respectful manner and go about it the right way.
Absolutely. All right. Do we have Eric in here? Can we get him in now? Eric, are you able to use your mic yet? I want to get you in on the conversation.
Yeah, he said he was muted before.
No?
I don't know if he's still muted.
Let's see if we can get you. All right. I'm going to have Nate work on that of getting him unmuted so that he can participate. But let me ask you, Ethan, have you seen any of the professional athletes? We're going to be talking here shortly in the second segment with Demario Davis. We're going to be talking to Samantha Johnson, who are professional athletes and who have used sort of their platform to make a stance in terms of social justice. So what are you encouraged by when you see professional athletes taking a stand? Does that speak to you as a young person and a young athlete to want to do the same? Or what are you looking forward to hear from them?
I think that I feel like they're like setting an example for us. Mm-hmm. So like if they're doing the right thing, I think like that reflects to us and that tells us, oh, if he's doing the right thing, I'm gonna do it too. And I think it's like that. And yeah, I think they have like, how do I say this? Like they show us what to do and what not to do. But wait, what? Okay, like what I said in the beginning, like they're doing something, and if we think if it's right or not wrong, we could do it the same thing too. So that's my answer.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Eric, I think you're clear now. I think you can talk a little bit. So if you could jump in here and talk about what are those conversations now as an older athlete? What are those conversations now that you're having with your teammates about moving forward with the season and what that looks like for you guys?
Well, basically, my teammates, our coaches are a big part of those talks right now because everyone's uncertain about whether or not we're going to have a season. And Coach Tay especially, he's been helping us a lot because basically we're just trying to remain positive through everything that's going on, the pandemic, racial injustice, everything that's going on. We're just trying to come together even more now and try to just create change and just stay positive. Honestly, that's really what's been going on. Nothing but positive talks, positive reinforcement. Even if we get on each other about certain mistakes that we did in the past or how we think, there's nothing wrong with how any of my teammates think, but it's all about how can we move forward together. So that's really what the talk has been, just trying to stay positive for a better future, whether we have a season or not, just trying to remain positive.
Thank you, Eric. I think that's a good note. These segments go by so quickly, and I wish that we could stay on all day. But I think that's a good note to end on for this first segment. I want to thank you guys, our youth athletes, as well as our coaches, for coming on and being a part of this conversation. So I'm going to swing it back over to Nate. Nate's got another poll for us, and we're going to get our panelists for segment 2 to jump on here.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.
Tayquan, I just want to take this second because I have permission to shout out this shirt. Thank you for rocking a shirt that just makes me feel at home. All right. I appreciate that.
Go Tigers. Go Tigers. Yes, sir.
Real champions. So we got a poll up. We'd love to hear you to give some thoughts for us real quick. We'd love to hear about how often do you use social media to address or make a statement about race and social issues. We'd love to also talk to you about when's the last time that you took action against racial or social injustices? And then third on there, would you be willing to risk your job, your livelihood, to take a stance about something that you believe really strongly in? Pretty hard-hitting questions, but some great conversations so far. And I think I can also safely say that everyone now wants to adopt Ethan into their family immediately. I think we can all safely say that. All right, so we're getting some votes in. We're about halfway. We'll give it another 30 seconds here. Thank you so much for voting. Thank you for giving us your thoughts. About another 10 seconds here. It's going to be a trainer 10 seconds. Just more like 3 minutes. But no, 5 seconds. All right, let's see some results really quick. Here we go. Show on your screen, you should have a couple of results popping up. 44% of us say often we use social media to make a statement, with seldom right behind it. Number 2 was the last time you took action within the last week. It's 47%. And then would you be willing to risk your job? And 63% of us said absolutely. So thank you for sharing some of your thoughts. And we're going to go back to Ahada for our next segment.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you so much. All right, this next segment, we're going to talk to some professional athletes and coaches and get their perspective on what is the role that athletes and coaches in sports in terms of racial and social justice. And how do we do that? What goes into making a decision about whether you take a stance or you don't? So first we have Samantha Johnson, who is a retired professional soccer player, having played in the Australian League with the Melbourne Victory and Sydney FC, and the National Women's Soccer League with the Utah Royals FC and the Chicago Red Stars. Samantha is also the founder of Better, a brand that pushes the limit on a social narrative through self-expression and strategy, impact, and outcome, better uses education as the vehicle to push its message to all demographics. We've got Collette V. Smith, a retired football player in the Women's Professional Football League, the NFL's first African-American football coach, and the first African-American football coach in the New York history. Collette is the founder and president of Believe in You Incorporated and is a motivational speaker, speaking at Fortune 500 corporations and Ivy League institutions around the country about the disparities that women in sports face, as well as the empowerment of Black girls and women. She's an ambassador for the Women's Sports Foundation, the Voss Foundation, the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and of course for Up2Us Sports. And then we have Demario Davis. Demario is a professional football player, having formerly played for the New York Jets and the Cleveland Browns. Demario is currently a linebacker for the New Orleans Saints. I know Nate is happy about that. But beyond football, Demario is a philanthropist, the founder of the Devoted Dreamers Foundation, a social activist, a mentor, and an author of the book titled The Unsuccessful Champion, True Victory in the Midst of Adversity. Demario has been outspoken and active around issues such as the water crisis in Flint, Michigan, and helping immigrants in need at the border. Demario is many things, but one of my favorites that I saw about Demario is the description that he is a true Renaissance man. So if you all will welcome all three of our panelists. So let's jump in. If you look at some of the things that have happened since the George Floyd murder and Breonna Taylor murder, athletes are coming out, coaches are coming out on behalf of what do we do now? What's the next step? You've got Lavelle Moten at North Carolina Central, the basketball coach there, who said that, who called out college coaches and said, listen, we're profiting off of majority Black athletes, and we have to do more about taking care of communities and being active in what's going on in the community. You've got athletes such as Natasha Cloud, who have taken the season off to take a stand in terms of racial and social justice. So my question for you is, let's throw this to Demario. What goes into, because you're active, you're out there, you post, you give interviews, what goes into your thought process in terms of making a stand, knowing that you could be jeopardizing your career? There's consequences for everything. So what goes into that thought process for you as an athlete, as a professional athlete, to say that this means enough for me that I need to speak up and say something?
Well, thank you. First of all, it's an honor to be on. I think a lot goes into it. First of all, I'm a person that leads with my faith. And so I believe I'm a servant of God first. So my life is not my own. I live for his glory. And so in doing that, to whom much is given, much is required. I just believe all the talent that I have, all the gifts that I have, this platform that I have, all of it has been given to me for a reason, to steward it well and steward it responsibly. And that responsibility is not just to me and my family, but it's to my neighbors around me. And it's to be an example to the next generation, as Ethan just spoke about. And so my actions are going to have some type of influence, regardless, not just on me and my life and my family's life, but it's going to have an influence on all those who are watching. And so because of that, there's a tremendous responsibility to humanity and to the public. And so if so many people are going to be watching me when I'm playing the game, they're not just watching me on the field, they're watching me off the field. And I just want to help people. That's part of being a humanity. I can't look at somebody that's hurting and not empathize with them and do everything I can to love them, to help them out of their situation. And then, two, knowing that if I act a certain way, it could have a domino effect and cause other people to act that same way. So if I'm silent, then other people may be silent or have a reason to be silent. But if I'm acting, other people may be motivated to be active. So all of that goes into how I weigh each and every decision. And it's not about helping a certain people or people group. It's just about doing the right thing. That's the reason why I was out in Flint doing water in the water crisis. That's why I was down on the border helping with immigration. And that's why I'm on the front lines of this racial issue that's been going on for hundreds of years in our country. And I'm just happy that we're finally addressing it and, and trying to move us together in a way. All of us come from so many different backgrounds, but bringing us together under one roof to have a uncomfortable conversation, but also not to have the conversation, but to actually move the needle forward in progress. And I just think we have that responsibility to do that and do that effectively and to do that often. And I think more and more people are being made aware of the platforms that they have and using it responsibly. And so I just try to be a light in that situation.
Thank you. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. I think that so many people are always figuring out, what's the compass? What's the moral compass? How do I do this? Is it right for me to do this? But I think you said it. I think if you keep it along the lines of, I'm just doing the right thing, I don't know that you can ever go wrong by choosing to do the right thing. So thank you. I appreciate that. Collette, let me jump to you. What's the coach's responsibility in this? Coaches whose programs are making money off of the name and the likeness and the image of athletes, and often they're athletes of color. So what responsibility do coaches have to ensure that their athletes have a voice and that their voices are being heard? Oh, you're on mute. Let me unmute you. All right.
Coaches have a responsibility to be the best coach for their players. Same way Up2Us Sports does that for our kids every day at a young age. We have the same responsibility on the highest level. And let me just rewind a second. In 2017, when I coached the New York Jets, Demario Davis was one of the players on the team that year. I coached defensive backs, but Demario Davis was a linebacker. This was the greatest man, not just because of his athletic ability, but because of his leadership. He set a standard. And I always talk about raising your standard. Raising your standard. And we need someone to look up to sometimes. We all can't be chiefs, right? But there are some chiefs that are the chief. Demario Davis was that man. I identified that very quickly. He would ask me sometimes, or I would ask him, what are you doing? Practice is over. He's like, well, I may cover a pass. I want some defensive back drills. And I'm like, that's a leader. So whether anybody was sitting back seeing it or saying or engaging, they saw it. That's a leader. So when it comes to a responsibility of a coach for their players, in the height of what's going on right now, we need to A, be here for our players, B, be an example for our players, and C, show up, right? So it's people like Demario Davis, it's groups like Up2Us Sports, where people will put their neck on the line for the right cause. Lord knows that I've had a tough life, as many Black people have. Many Black people have. Not saying that other groups don't have a tough time sometimes, but we have it a little bit harder. There are knees on our necks. And for me, it's get your foot off my back so I can thrive. Give me good schooling systems. Give me par, not subpar, par levels of being able to run a race at my full capacity, right? So for me, going against the grain is doing what's right. I'm a child of God. I'm a servant of God first. I'm his servant. But also, God knows me the same way my boy Nate knows me, and I'm a servant warrior. So not only am I a servant, but I'm going to be a warrior and fight for the right things, for the right things. So humanity comes into all this, and it's just simply doing the right thing and listening. I can tell you that when I coached the New York Jets back in 2017, and at that time there was the head coach, Todd Bowles, one of the greatest men I know. I will forever catch a case for him if I need to. I'm all in for Coach Bowles. A good man. He loved his players. He loved the sport. He loved what it could bring. Sports unites people, right? So in the midst of all of this stuff we're going through right now, sports has a way to connecting people, no matter what race, gender, creed, ethnic background, religion, all of that, we unite. That's what sports has the power to do. I don't know if enough people know that. If you don't know that, listen up. Check out Up2Us Sports. Check out some phenomenal players that are doing the right thing, that are about humanity. And look, sports is good. I'll be the first one to tell you, I'm a football fan. I grew up loving football. What I discovered about football when I started playing pro football, I didn't have the luxury to play football. As Demario, love him, love the other players, love Emmitt Smith, Lawrence Taylor, all of that. But these guys were able to play as young boys because of their gender. I was not allowed to. The same way a Black woman couldn't vote. The same way Blacks couldn't vote. What I'm getting at is that when I finally found football at the age of 42 and became a women's pro football player, all the stuff I thought I knew about football, I didn't know jack. I learned a lot more. And life will bring you experiences based on what you're willing to put yourself through. I'm fearful of the water. Should I never go in the water? No, get in the water, but be in the water with someone that's a swimmer. So sports has a way to unite people. You can do the right thing. I think that universities that are using their star players to promote and bring money to that school, good for the school. But let's not forget about that individual who's doing the work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I agree. I think that, there are some players out here who are actually doing the work and interested in doing the work. Samantha, I want to get you in here. So, you're a former athlete. You've played before, but now you have a new platform, and that is your business, which is better. And you're using that as a way to get your message across. So my question for you is, how do organizations or foundations who are starting, who are much like yourself, how do you use that platform to get a message out? What does that process look like for you? And how did you decide to even do that coming off of sports? That's not an easy transition. So how do you decide, I'm going to go from the field of playing soccer to now I'm going to start a business, and my business is going to be about sending a message. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've been working on this actually for like 3 years in terms of what the branding is going to look like, what the message is going to be. I come from a background of education, so my mom's an educator. Pretty much, I didn't even know college was actually an option until I was older. So it was just kind of like instilled in my siblings that everyone's going to college and furthering themselves and making sure, even though you play sports, making sure that you have that kind of safety net in terms of your education and whatnot. So that's something that I was taught. Now I kind of developed well over the time. I know like people don't necessarily have those pathways to obtain like a high level education and whatnot. So that's kind of where I guess my passion grew when I was playing, because I was like heavily involved in the Chicago community when I was here, because I played 5 years. So I realized the education system here wasn't what I thought it should be. So this is actually the first city that I'm trying to tackle, because I am on the ground here, even though I'm from Palmdale, California. So I'll be going there next because we need just as much help over there. But I basically decided that in a nutshell, I'm going to create pathways for minorities, youth to basically get a high level education. So just, I think that if you can create a pathway for people, then a lot of people will actually take advantage of that. If they can see that someone like them has been successful, despite background or whatever, that they can definitely pursue whatever dreams that they have. But if there's no pathway, then it's kind of hard to do that. And as an athlete, like, I feel like people put a lot of unwanted responsibility, like, on them. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, just because you're an athlete doesn't mean you have the voice or you actually want that responsibility. So there's actually a lot of my teammates who, you know, have those huge followings or whatnot, like on social media, and people are like, oh, you should be posting. And they're like, well, I do my part, but like at my capacity, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I feel like that's important for people to know, is like, athletes obviously are definitely seen as somewhat of superheroes and whatnot. And people want them to kind of like, you know, hold down the castle, if you will. I'm just like, well, people need to, everyone can do their part. And even if it's small, if it's big, however much your impact is, if you do your part and you're true to what you're doing, then it's going to make the impact that we need.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's finish up. Demario, can you tell me, so I'm an athlete. I'm a college athlete. How do I figure out what my capacity is? I'm still trying to figure out who I am as an athlete, as a young person. Help me out. How do I figure out what my capacity is?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. I think number one, it's important to know that you don't have to be and you're not an expert in these areas. Just because you play sports and just because you come from these communities, whether you come from these communities or you don't, you're not an expert in these areas, and that's okay. You're an expert in your craft that just so happens to have a tremendous platform. And so people want you to use that platform to amplify messages. So you can be educated just like other people, but the thing that you have the opportunity to do is, once you're educated, is to take that expert opinion and amplify it to so many people that don't necessarily know. And so you're able to bring awareness around issues that other people don't know about. And it's okay to move different than other people. You don't have to do what you see. Everybody, like Samantha hit on, everybody has gifts, everybody has talents, and it's going to play out in different ways. And as long as you're doing something to help the cause, that's gonna be okay. And so if you feel like you can do a lot, do a lot. If you feel like you just need to do a little bit and go slow, that's fine. I think the thing that's not okay is to be apathetic, and just, and like that's not your issue, or it doesn't matter. You can't stay silent and watch humanity be oppressed or be hurting. You don't have the luck. None of us do as human beings, not just as athletes, but even more so with the blessings and the gifts that you have, is not okay. And I think, to keep it simple, what we've done, because I'm part of the Players Coalition, and so we work with NBA, and now it's moving to WNBA, MLS, MLB, NFL. And so we're working with all these different groups, and what we've tried to do is simplify to understand that most of the fight that's going on now is under 5 different buckets. And so one of those is, just advocating against police brutality, and just finding ways, whether it's just bringing awareness, retweeting, posting, talking about it, finding locally what's going on with policing in your community, trying to help that. The next one is voting, helping to get people registered to vote, help voting turnout, help voter education. People can know about not just the major ballot issues, but the small ballot issues. The third is just justice for these families of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd. Just all you got to do is just say their name. Justice for their names is enough. And then fighting for those causes, be aware of, how it is that convictions have to happen and how do we get those convictions of those people. Also, investing in communities. So just, poverty is a real thing in Black communities, how COVID-19, you can see the disparities, how the education, you can see the disparities. So what real investment in communities look like. So being more aware of that, and then asking corporations and institutions and teams in cities to invest in these communities. And then I think lastly, just diversity in our industry, at the college level, athletic directors, head coaches in the NFL, NBA, GMs, head coaches, gender equality, as Coach Collette, one of my favorite people ever. Also, we were like hip to hip in New York. That's my people's right there. And so I got to give that shout out right back. Thank you for those words, and thank you for raising the standard. So just diversity in the industry, and I think we as players are able to demand that, And so if you just kind of keep it like purposeful under those 5 buckets, you can find plenty of ways to get active at your capacity.
Thank you. I think a lot of what you talked about in those last 5 capacities is really going to make a great segue into our next segment, which is a conversation with organizations and community organizers about how do we take those dollars and translate it into change. So Nate, I'm going to toss it over to you. I want to thank you, Collette. Thank you, Samantha. Thank you, Demario, for being a part of this segment. Really appreciate your insight. And I know the young people who are watching and will be watching when we send this out will learn something and hopefully be able to move forward and understand their part. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. We've got another poll up. And so if you don't mind taking a few seconds to give us a vote. Mr. Demario, it's good to see you again. I was lucky enough to be at a social justice event with you a couple of years ago here in New Orleans. And I got to tell my girl Lish to keep me one of these white pullovers. I'm going to need one of those in my wardrobe. And one of my favorite people is Collette Smith as well. This is a super powerful woman. And if you do not follow her on social media, you are missing out. So go follow our friends. Thank you for taking a second to vote. We're right at 50%. Some really amazing conversations. And if you have a question throughout today, please feel free to put it in the chat. We're going to try to get to some of the questions at the end of today. If they're specifically addressed to somebody, one of our panelists, please make sure to add their name. And when we get to the end, we'll see if we can't save some time to pick out a couple of these. We're right at 60%. So we're going to give it another 10 seconds before we move on. Be a real 10 seconds, not really, because I don't have a stopwatch. It'll be a trainer 10 seconds. All my trainer friends on here know what I'm talking about. We give 1 minute, but we really give like 15 seconds, or say 15 seconds, and we give like 5 minutes. All right, 5, 4. Thank you so much for voting. Leave me your questions. 3, 2, 1. All right, let's share these out. Looks like 68% said we've begun the process of evaluating, which is a really great step. And looks like a lot of us are pointed in the right direction. So on that note, we're going to toss it back over to Ahada.
All right. Thank you. All right. So our next segment, now let's take the conversation to another level. And that is, let's have a conversation about what do we do to allocate these funds. You've got the NFL, who has pledged $250 million to go towards ending discrimination in racial justice. You've got Adidas, who's pledged $20 million. Nike, who's pledged $40 million. And so now I want to get a conversation started with some of our organizations and advocates in communities that are doing this work. So first we have Nichol Whiteman. I'm sorry, I'm going to do ladies first. Nichol Whiteman is the CEO of the Los Angeles Dodgers Foundation, where she leads the team's official charity. Under her leadership, the LADF launched the Dodgers RBI, a youth development program serving over 10,000 youth. As a part of its commitment to Southern California communities, the foundation completed its 50th Dodgers Dream Field, created a benefit gala, and increased funding by 1,000% with Nicole at the helm. She also advocates for the LADF to be a strong charitable partner for nonprofits within the LA community through strategic grant making. Currently, the partnerships that Nicole has established and cultivated have invested over $25 million in the community in the form of direct programs and grant making, impacting over 2.3 million children. Also under Nicole's leadership, the LADF and the LA Dodgers were named the 2020 ESPN Sports Humanitarian Team of the Year, and they are now the owner of an SB as they tackle the most pressing problems facing Los Angeles. Their mission is to improve education and healthcare, reduce homelessness, and fight for social justice. Then we have Dwayne Kinnon. Duane, who is a former professional athlete as well in both football and baseball, having played for the New York Giants and the Detroit Tigers, respectively, is now the president and CEO of the Kinnon Group, which is a strategic management consulting firm. He is also the founder of the National Community Sports Zone Foundation, which uses technology, human services, and sports to solve complex social problems. Duane has launched and is executing his Brownsville Legacy Project in his hometown of Brownsville, Brooklyn. Through his legacy work, Duane accomplished launching the Friends of Brownsville Parks advocacy group, where Brownsville's Betsy Head Park is designated as the mayor's $30 million Anchor Park Initiative recipient. He has launched a $1 million Boys and Girls Club Teen Center, founded the Brownsville Community Sports Zone Initiative, serving over 3,000 youth, and expanded the One Brooklyn Engineering Pipeline to the Brownsville and East New York sections of Brooklyn, bringing STEM labs to 32 schools, totaling over $7 million. And then finally, we have our CEO and founder, Paul Kakamo. Paul is a 25-year veteran of the nonprofit sector and one of the founders of the sports-based youth development movement. He's helped to establish numerous nonprofits that focus on youth development, sports, and physical activity and education. He lectures and writes on the impact of sports on youth and community development. Paul has received numerous academic awards and citations for leadership, including one of Harvard's most prestigious graduate awards for innovation in the design of social service programs. Paul founded America's Scores national office in 1999, and then Up2Us Sports in 2009. As the first national service program that prepares young adults to use the power of sports to help youth reach their potential on and off the field. And after 10 years of existence, Up2Us Sports has over 1,700 member organizations. We've placed nearly 2,900 coaches in underserved communities. We've trained over 22,700 coaches and program staff, and we served over 500 youth. So welcome, thank you. Paul, let's start off with you. So again, all of these organizations are pledging funds, right, to go into underserved communities and in discrimination, right? So can you talk a little bit about what has Up2Us done, or what have you committed yourself to do to address the racial disparities and how they exist in sports?
I don't know how Nate had that as one of the poll questions, but I just wanted to give you my answer once and for all. There's so many times I have gotten into a Zoom call, my fifth of the day, and just remembered. Everyone, I'm really humbled to be here and hear the coaches and to hear the stories from our kids and to be on this particular panel, Ahada, with one of the leaders in the field, Nicole, and someone who really is the change that they want to see around them, which is my good friend Duane. And so I'm just really honored to be part of this and talking in this panel about this issue. I think we have to understand that we're all here because sports is an avenue of racial justice. And for too long, we have watched the opportunities for kids to play sports, especially in low-income communities of color, completely disappear. Why should a child be going to a public school in New York or Chicago or LA and have maybe 1/10 the opportunity to play sports as compared to a child in a upper middle class or in another community that's just down the street? It's an injustice. And why is it injustice? Because I think we heard the words today from our coaches, Woodley and Tayquan, like coaches matter in kids' lives. They are buffers around stress and trauma, which has hit unprecedented levels in the last few months with COVID and with the racial uprisings. But more than that, coaches also inspire kids. They show kids an avenue to say, I can avoid the negatives and I can choose the positive. I can graduate. I can go to college. And there are so many studies out there which correlate being part of a team, being part of a sport, and saying no to drugs, not joining a gang, graduating from high school, not becoming a teen parent, going on to college, being economically mobile, being a chief suite executive in a company. It comes from playing sports. So guess what, everyone? When we deny sports in communities of color, especially in our low-income areas around this country, then we are denying kids an equitable access to a pathway to success. And so we need to tell corporations and funders that if you want to fund, particularly those in sports merchandising, sports marketing, teams, athletes, if you want to fund racial justice, please consider the role that youth sports plays and consider the incredible divisiveness that we've allowed to happen in terms of access to sports in communities of color, especially across, again, our urban communities that we focus on at Up2Us Sports.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's an important message to get across, especially to organizations. Nicole, I'm going to bring you in. How do organizations, right, who have pledged these dollars, how do we go about getting beyond the slogans, getting beyond the hashtags? Our kids don't live in hashtags. So how do we go beyond living in those hashtags and enact some real change in the communities? As the LA Dodgers Foundation, you all are one of the pros at developing partnerships. But what does that look like for those of us that are on here who may be working at an organization that serves youth in sports? How do we go beyond the hashtags and get some real work done?
Yeah, Ahada, a great question. I am thrilled to see that corporations are leveraging their global research to advocate for racial justice. But you're exactly right. We have to go past hashtags. We have to go past slogans at this point. I think it's important that organizations use those funds to amplify the voices of organizations and leaders who aren't on the ground in these communities, fighting this battle each and every day. And frankly, organizations that are on the ground in these communities have been fighting this battle for decades. The reality is, as it relates to our efforts, our Dodger players have bravely asserted that Black Lives Matter, but we have further added to that impact by ensuring that there are 13 organizations within the California Funders for Boys and Men of Color that are on the ground here in LA, like a Brotherhood Crusade, a Brothers, Sons, and Selves community coalition, who are fighting, advocacy fighting, on the front lines, protesting, fighting, and have actually been leading amazing youth development programs for years and years and years. And we actually feel like it's important to partner with them. To your point, we don't do anything where we find ourselves to be the experts and lead and just pretend like we're doing this ourselves. So we are focused right now on those 13 organizations. We understand that the work is not new. We understand that it's new to mainstream America right now because of the George Floyd murder. But these organizations have been doing an exceptional job, and it's our opportunity right now to support them. So I do think that corporations and organizations should look to those who have been doing the work, magnify their reach, amplify their voices, support their platforms and spread their messages. They've been talking about what's plagued the Black communities for years. So it's right in front of us in terms of social justice organizations and youth development organizations who we can all get together with, we can lock arms with to see some real change.
Absolutely, absolutely. Dwayne, as a community organizer, as someone who's created some zones, the sports zones, and created these coalitions of like-minded organizations, I've got my magic wand. I'm granting $5 million to the National Sports Zone Foundation. How do organizations such as yourself, how do we utilize those dollars? Where do they go?
Well, the best use of those dollars is just like Nicole said, that the more that you can work with groups that are focused on collaboration, multiple groups covering, different issues like health, exercise, sports, nutrition, tying that into, what we call anchor opportunities where capacity is being built because there's so many people on the ground who are doing great work, but they have jobs, they have children, they don't have the time, to sit in all the meetings that it takes to get connected to the funding. So those organizations kind of need a landing spot and a platform so their work can be amplified and then that you can get some serious results. And in my hometown of Brownsville, Brooklyn, was really, depressed area for about 40 to 50 years. So just like everyone knows, this is not new, but today is a new day. We are fixing parks to the tune of $30 million. We're building sports of the mind programs, building teams around robotics. and addressing a lot of the issues and the disinvestments that haven't been made for years are happening right now.
Sure. So I'm going to throw this question out to any one of you can jump in and answer this. So what do you see ultimately as the vision? If we could have it the way we want it to have it, what's the vision? What's the potential impact really that these dollars have on communities and the people that we're serving? And that's for any one of you.
I'll go first. I think that communities of color deserve high quality education, safe recreational spaces, cultural institutions, and the wide range of amenities that we see in all the affluent communities in our various cities. At the Dodgers Foundation, we always say the zip code should never define these opportunities. And we all know that for centuries, the Black community has not been afforded all these opportunities, and that Black neighborhoods don't have the same resources as affluent neighborhoods for the most part. And so I think that with the appropriate resources flowing into communities, we're going to see stronger families, we're going to see economic empowerment, and we're going to see neighborhoods where everybody feels safe. Black families, I think, have survived in the midst of a lot of adversity, but now is the time to thrive, right? Having made such a tremendous impact in sort of building the foundations, I think that the Black community should enjoy our equal rights and protections. And the fear that I endure when my husband and my sons leave the house, it should only dissipate when we acknowledge that the work that lies ahead, when we partner with organizations on the ground, when we put money in the right places, when we move past marketing slogans and marketing campaigns. I think equality is an action right now, not just addressing and acknowledging, but it's an action right now. And I think that's the most important part about this. An action requires these very tough conversations that are having and strong leadership to guide us toward the promise of this nation. And I think that the true success of all of this is when we have clearly defined allyship. A lot of the work that we're doing on the foundation side and a lot of work that I'm doing, I think that the potential impact here is actually going to be greater than it has been before, because we have allies at the table right now, and because allyship is being promoted in such a significant way. So I do think that the change I want to see and continue to see is that we're doing this together. So it's Black and white, it's Black and brown. It's not you fight for your own rights, you figure it out by yourself. I think that the change is going to come because we're doing it under this allyship model.
Thank you. Go ahead, Paul.
Of course, I agree everything Nicole said, and I'll be a little myopic about my own work and youth sports and all of us on this phone call for a second about sports. I think Ahada, the change is when we restore, and this is again only regarding sports, when we restore athletic budgets to every public school in this country, particularly the schools that have seen their sports programs wiped out. And I would like to see every single kid who goes to college. We've seen incredible Liz Mary and Ethan today. I'd like to see kids be able to go to school and have an option, no matter where you grow up, of sports to play. Equal amount for girls as for boys. And I'd like to see schools look at sports differently. This is the time where we start to break the old patterns, because they haven't worked. They haven't gotten us to where we need to be as a society. So when we look at sports differently, maybe we emphasize that schools and parks hire the coaches from the community, so that those coaches are ambassadors to the neighborhoods around those schools, so that those coaches can be counselors who know resources in the community. So while they're mentoring and coaching a kid, if they see a challenge and an opportunity, they also know how to point that kid in the right direction. And I'd also dream of the day that once coaches are hired in our community and they're reinforcing the behavioral health and the outcomes of schools by coaching, by their athletic departments, that someday when a kid is assigned when a kid has a behavioral challenge and they're assigned to a detention, that we wipe that practice away and maybe assign them to a sports team with a trained coach who's probably much more likely to help that kid make a better choice going forward.
I'll jump in and I'll say one of the things that I see that's going to be impacted tremendously is the timing of how quick it takes for things to actually get done. The project that we have down in Brownsville took about 5 years to be completed, and it's ongoing for the next 5 years. But if everyone that we spoke to 5 years ago agree to become part of our alliance and be aligned with the work and say yes instead of saying no and get out of your silos, all of that, all those results could have been done in 2 years, half the time easy. So we have those conversations today, but in our current state of affairs across the country, now people are being forced to work together. A lot of organizations that haven't been effective have been exposed, and they're looking for ways to partner now. And we say it's never too late. So we're really excited about what the future looks like as more people are being forced to come together and work towards one common goal.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's a great way to wrap up, Dwayne. I appreciate that. Again, I want to thank my panelists, Nichol Whiteman, thank you. Paul Kakamo, thank you. Dwayne Kinnon, thank you. We're gonna toss it over to Nate to do one more poll. We're gonna wrap up and answer some questions from everybody that's been on the call. And if you have any questions for our panelists, we'll jump in and do that, and then we're gonna get you guys out of here. But again, thank you all.
Awesome. We see the last poll is up. Thank you for all of our panelists. Today has been a really, really awesome day. And so I think we've got a couple more minutes here. I think we maybe can get to a couple of questions. Eric Palmer asked this, and it's really open for everyone. What do coaches do when racial injustices are ignored and the unity for sport is only to win and the individual humanity is forgotten? I think winning at sport trumps the injustices at times and doing what is right. So I think he just wants to know, what do coaches do whenever winning becomes the ultimate goal for coaches or for programs?
I can jump in. I say that, for coaches, we see a lot that there's an emotional tie to the sport. And a lot of times coaches, have to be in a position where they kind of see the full picture, the whole holistic approach of what it takes to coach a child. And it takes them out of this winning at all costs scenario. We've had plenty of situations where we had to pull coaches aside and then put them into training opportunities to say, in this situation, maybe your star athlete shouldn't be playing in this game because it may hurt them in terms of an injury and things of that nature. Maybe the caliber of the game itself is not at a level where that individual is safe. So a lot of times it's good to, address those coaches with proper training, but addressing every issue when a coach is sticking, too hard to a winning at all cost mentality.
And I just want to add, I agree entirely, Dwayne, and I think winning at all costs can lead to some losing outcomes if someone's self-esteem or personal sense of belonging is affected. And so I just want to add one piece to that, because I think about this a lot institutionally, is that we cannot have the ability to know what choices every single coach in this country is making at every level in terms of their teams and what's going on. But that's why I think when we look at systemic change, we also have to look at the systems around youth sports to ensure that the systems do not allow any sense of a child feeling that they are less valuable or worth because of any differences that they have. And that we have to make it really clear in youth sports that if you're part of an AYSO league, you're part of an Up2Us Sports coaching program, you're part of a lacrosse program, if you choose winning at all costs, and that includes allowing kids to get away with discrimination and bigotry, then the system, the organization will not tolerate. And it's not up to always that kid or that coach, but it's up to the entire league to say, you're out. Not for 2 months or 3 months, because I think you're out. I think we have to create an equitable society, and it starts at every level.
Very true.
We have another question.
Yeah, we did. We had a really good question for our youth that are on the panel here today from Hillary. She says, as a young person living in this unique time, what do you care most about right now? So for Liz Marie and Ethan, what do you guys care about most right now?
I'll take that.
Ethan cares about eating.
Yeah, what I care about most is really the health and care of the society at this point. Coming from New York City and now being in Florida, I was at both sides of this horrible epidemic. And when the pandemic hit back in March, I had just left the area and had to see through social media and the news and the phone calls how many people who were personally connected to me who had become sick or died. The number is really too high to count. And then now to be in Florida and we're being hit kind of like with the same issue is tough. So what I worry about today is how people have to take this pandemic very seriously, do everything that you can to protect our kids and families, because we have to have a strong society moving forward. We won't get there unless we put all of our precautions in place and take the actions that we need to make things better.
Absolutely. Ethan, you wanted to answer that question too?
Yeah. Right now, what I care about the most is like how Dwayne said, like caring about like our families and during this pandemic, because there's a lot. I have a lot of family members, and I'm trying to like stay in contact with them to see how they're doing, and yeah, that's the most important thing, family.
Thank you, Ethan. Liz Marie, Eric, you guys.
I'm not sure. Oh, what was that question again? I'll actually answer that. It was how we kind of feeling in this time right now, or what's been on our minds. I'm sorry, Ahada, can you say that again?
Sure. What do you care most about as we move forward?
Got you. I care about, like, I wouldn't say worry so much, but I just care about how people feel, like, within themselves. Like, the things that they don't tell people, the things that, that just you're not going to speak about as much, and the things you kind of hold inside of yourself. I kind of care about that the most, and I try to kind of positively think about people kind of getting past these things, if that makes sense. Because I know just besides even a virus, there's just a lot going on right now. People kind of have issues dealing with just tough moments and tough times. A lot of what we go through in sports, just high pressure moments and high emotional moments. I feel like a lot of people could be going through right now. So I just kind of keep that on my mind and just hope that people's minds are well. Because if their mind is well and they feel well, then then they're going to be able to do things physically well. So yeah, I just hope that people's minds are well at the moment, and they're trying to find what kind of makes them happy and what settles them in.
Absolutely,
that's what I'm thinking about.
Absolutely, thank you so much.
Yeah.
We're at the end of our time. What I'd like to do is for each of my panelists.
Hey, Ahada, real quick. I think Liz Marie said she was going to answer.
Go ahead, Liz Marie. Sorry.
All right. So what right now that matters to me is that like people out there, like Coach Woodley was saying, that they're like at least having like a positive mindset. And because if you're just negative all the time, then you're going to be affecting yourself and the people around you. Because if you're always negative, then people are going to start thinking about that mindset. And I don't think that's really what we want right now. And as well, something that is important is that we're all like safe and healthy, because I know from like experience that one of my family members lost somebody like important to them, and like it was like really sad. So I think that definitely right now is like to have like a mindset that you're not alone, and like as well to like empathize that there's as well like other people too that are having like strong feelings and like or like different types of feelings out there, and like it's okay to feel the way like you feel, and like there's nothing wrong with it, and like we're all like soon hopefully we could all like finally be together without a mask and stuff.
Absolutely. Out of the mouths of babes. We're going to end it there. I would like for each of our panelists, if you could, In the chat, just throw in where we can follow you, where we can find you, where we can find your work, as well as when this session ends, we have recorded it. We'll make sure everybody has a link if you want to go back and watch it again or forward it to your friends and colleagues. As well, we'll have information about each one of our panelists and how you can follow them and reach out to them and find out more about what they're doing. I want to thank my team who's been behind the scenes of all this, helping me out. Mario Argote, Jacqueline Miller, Kimberly DiCasero. I just really want to thank you guys. This has been an awesome experience, an awesome panel, and we couldn't have gotten this done without you. So that is it. Thank you, everybody, and hopefully you'll join us for our next live chat. All right. Have a good one.